We are back for another quick take, and today we are joined by first place winner Max, who his short film Deadline placed first in the Jacob Owens horror short film contest. Thank you, Max, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, with the contest this year, kind of actually doing the in-person event and everything, and meeting so many of you guys and talking to the filmmakers like you, there were so many people who asked for feedback, and they're like, what could I have done better, or what could have placed me higher, or how could I have made the top 10? And so after the fact, Tom and I were like, dude, we need to do like a podcast episode where we talk about the top 25 films, what we liked about them, how they could have been stronger, or just kind of discuss those, but also then have on like the three winners and kind of interview them each and have them talk about their films and talk about the process and get insight. And yeah, so this is the first time we've done anything like this. I'm excited to dive into it because you were our first place winner for the 2023 contest, which is, dude, I think I did the percentages and it's like it was less than 1% chance of winning.
This is crazy.
If you break down how many films there are, it was like technically some films came in late. There was over like 260 something submissions. Wow. And for one person to win, like the percentage of you winning is like less than 1%. Obviously, like, so congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still processing it, honestly, because out of 256 places, like I remember opening your story and you were posting like the list of submissions, like the emails that you're getting. Yeah. And I was like, holy, like this is a lot of films. Like, do we even have a chance? And now like realizing that we got first, it's like still kind of like unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question I have for you is I know at some point there's probably people looking at the stories and seeing updates and going like, dude, like do I even have a chance or a shot? Was there any moment like while making the film or while you're like editing it and submitting it, like I feel really good about this, like I think I have a shot? Or were you just like, dude, no chance? Like, you know what I mean?
There were definitely a few. So actually, I'm going to circle back a little bit, like before we even started pre-production. We had maybe like 4 different scripts, 4 completely different stories. And it's very interesting to see that all those 4 ideas, somebody else did them in the contest.
Really?
Like, wow. Yeah, so the whole concept.
Like, what was the first idea? Like, what was the first idea that you were kind of, or a couple of those rough ideas?
So we wanted to do it as low budget as possible, like no locations we had to pay for, no actor, like not a lot of actors. And I remember the very, very first idea that I had, I wanted to use a gas mask in the film. I thought it would be like something interesting and more unique than just like using.
But you found a way to work a gas mask into your film.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So that idea I saved till the end. But like one of the original ideas was kind of like post-apocalyptic scenario where 2 protagonists kind of like trying to survive post-apocalypse, like nuclear war world, and they would be like chased by mutants. So
I
like
love how that's like your idea for a low budget short film. That sounds like
I know.
a film.
We were thinking about it like, okay, we can go and like shoot it somewhere in the desert, like somewhere on the open space. It could be like shot during the daylight and that kind of stuff. And we would need to invest like in a good makeup artist to do like this like one creature zombie or whatever it would be. But then that kind of like didn't go anywhere, and I was like, okay, what else can we do? Then the other idea that I had that we almost shot was where do you start? It's kind of like a cannibalism story about like 2 people who invite like a nurse to their house to take care of their like ill father.
Oh, there
And
was.
then
I remember there was a film just like that. Yeah, there's like
yeah,
I don't know if
or
you.
at
I don't
least
know if you had seen it, but there was like this younger girl. She comes into this very old house, and it's this creepy old lady, and she has like it's either some person or a husband that's like in the
mhm,
back room. That's like this thing ends up killing her. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I mean, yeah, you're bound to get similar ideas when you're talking about
mhm,
256 short films that all
yeah,
kind of have to follow these similar like guidelines and rules and yeah, you just kind of think like, okay, what's the winner of last year? I remember he told me at the event, he's like,
mhm,
when I went to start making the film, I just thought, okay, what is everyone going to do, and how could I do the opposite? Because like that's the big thing is
yeah,
you're probably gonna what is everyone going to do, and how can I do something that's different, or and trying to like so it's interesting that a lot of the ideas you had people had done. So you really
yeah.
when this contest goes down, you have to be really kind of be creative and think outside the box because I can't tell you even how many of the films 90 I'm not maybe not 90% but a very large majority of them was like a box on the porch, knock at the door, they go, there's a mask in
Yeah.
a box, they open it up, put it on or something weird, like so many films like that. So yeah, you
Mhm.
kind of really got to think like, okay, how could I do something different with these creative rules and constraints? And that's what I
Yeah.
really liked about your film. It just felt different, but it was also very complete. There was a good story. I thought the scares were good. I thought just so much of it stood out, and I like the fact just the whole. I related to it with the filmmaking aspect and the
Yeah.
writing and the anxiety of not meeting a project's deadline, and like there's just more. I think why it won in my book is you did everything so well when it came to the creative rules, but there was also like a good story and there was layers to the story. It wasn't just like you know, a scary mass murderer or whatever, right? I think you just did a good job of having a full, complete, creative story that, hit well on all the rules. And that's something Tom and I talked about is like the films aren't being judged solely on if it's a good or scary film. It's like, how well are you implementing these challenges and rules? Because that's kind of what
Mhm.
you're being graded on. How creatively are you using a mask? How creatively are you interpreting the shot recreations? And so if you're not doing those things well, but you just make a cool, scary short film, well, that's not what the contest is about. It's about working within the confines of like these like kind of rules and challenges we set.
Yeah.
And yeah, you did a really good job. But I want to speak on budget going back to because you said like
Mhm.
the thing about the post-apocalyptic thing. Oh, we're trying to
Mhm.
think how we could do something for like no budget, no locations we had to pay for. When it comes to a lot of these short films, people are trying to do them for no budget or spend as little as possible. Did you end up having to like spend a lot if you feel comfortable talking about that, or
Yeah,
was
yeah,
it
of course.
everyone just kind of coming together to like no rates, just make something cool? Like what was how did that all kind of shake out for you?
Yeah, so this idea turned out to be, I think, less expensive than like the idea with the nurse or
Mm-hmm.
apocalypse stuff would be. So that's nice, but yeah, we still had to like invest in props. We bought lots
Yeah.
of cloths. Then we returned them. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, some of the props obviously we weren't able to return. So um, big chunk of the budget went to the props. Then food. That was probably the
Yeah.
most amount of money that we spend on this film is just like keeping everybody fed. And
Mm.
what else? The We had to pay for one location, the therapist office,
Yeah.
and
That's what I figured.
yeah. Give me 1 second. So that location we literally rented out for 3 hours, did everything that we needed, and got out of there.
Nice.
What else? Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much
The
that's
apartment
it.
was one of your guys' apartments.
It's literally my
Just yeah.
apartment. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
So
nice.
nice.
the opening
Yeah.
shot was filmed here. Then the rest of the film was filmed at Michael's place, who was playing Andrew.
Hmm.
Okay.
And yeah, he and his husband let us utilize that house to its full extent. I remember when yeah, the scheduling of this film was also pretty crazy. So Michael had to work every day at 5 a.m. So he would go to bed earlier, and sometimes I would just stay by myself with the DP and our PA Liana and my mom, who was helping us with production design, and we would just like quietly shoot like B-roll stuff, like pickups, while he and his husband was like asleep in a different room. We had to like,
Oh my
like
gosh.
some of the mask shots in the gas mask, it's actually me, because Michael had to go to bed earlier. So yeah, like a few close-ups, I think it's me. Like typing on the computer, I think it's also me. So yeah, we had to be very resourceful with the time. And yeah, I mean, that's the only way to make something quickly and low
I love
budget.
that. I got a question for
Yeah.
you. This being kind of a filmmaking podcast, I know a lot of people are probably curious like what your film was shot on.
Yeah.
You don't have to go too technical, but I think it'd be cool for our audience listening and watching to, we'll obviously have this film linked in the show notes below or in the YouTube link below, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about A, what you shot on, but B, maybe why you chose that equipment. Was it something that you or your DP had access to? Was it something that you rented, or did it kind of serve the project in a creative way? So I'd love to hear maybe more of like the technical aspects of the making of your film.
Yeah. So it was shot on Red Komodo. We chose this for several reasons. One is, yes, it was like accessible to both of us. Me and the DP, we both own one, so we basically had two cameras, which was really handy because a lot of times we were shooting two cameras simultaneously. Like he would set up like the A cam and do the main shot, and then I would like start grabbing like B-roll and
cool.
vice versa. Like the scene um, with the rain when Andrew is like typing and the monster is creeping behind him. Like we shot it all at the same time. Like I was having difficulty to like find like moments when there was not another camera in the shot. So yeah, it was really nice to have two cameras and be able to first of all have a DP that would be like, yeah, like go ahead, take a camera and do what you want to do, because it's sometimes people are very protective of their work, and working with Kenneth, who was a cinematographer in this film, was just pure pleasure. Like so collaborative.
Have you worked with him before on a bunch of stuff, or was this?
So he and his wife actually they're like a cinematographer director duo, and I always help them on their projects with music videos and stuff. And
Nice.
recently we shot a music video, and I asked Kenneth to DP on it. And yeah, just like throughout that process, it was so easy to work with him, and we were really on the same page from the beginning, like same kind of like vibe for what the piece would be, like same ideas. And I was like, yeah, like he was the one who told me about your contest. And as I was talking on the phone, I was looking at the ad or like your post on Instagram. I was like, yeah, I mean, that's a sign we have to do it together.
So cool. You had not heard of me or this contest prior to him?
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I've seen your this contest last year or 2 years ago, but then I saw it before like we started making something, I don't know, like 2 months ago when you just like started posting it. I was like, yeah, it would be nice to do it, like, but I don't know if like I have energy, or like I don't know who to make it with. Like I don't know, like I have an actor.
I mean, it's not easy to pull together a film, and I said that time and time again at the event, and I always say that it's not easy, and it is easy to go like I don't have the time, I don't have the budget, I don't have the energy, I don't have the people, and it's like I can't tell you year after year how many messages or comments I get like, oh, I wish I would have entered next year I'll do it, and it's like always kind of pushing off. So yeah, I mean, it's easy to do that. I know we've done that. but yeah, you just kind of have to force yourself to do it. And obviously I'm glad he did, because yeah, it was a cool film.
Me too.
It's funny. There's always a couple like as I'm watching the films for the first time and I'm going through the list, which is just an insane process. But every single time there's a moment where it's like, this is a top 3. Like I just know, right? And so the first one, which I saw, was Disinfectant, which was within the first 15 or 20 films I watched, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be hard to beat. I was like, that's in the top 3 for sure. I just knew it, because you just get a sense. And then I saw yours and the same thing. I was like, oh shit, that's gonna be up there too. And so yeah, it was like one of those that I saw right away, and I was like, that's gonna be a finalist for sure. And so yeah, I mean, obviously it was. Tommy, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I have a quick question for you. So, as the director, what were some of the references you pulled to kind of, I'm sure you saw the movie in your head as you're writing it and putting together. And I feel like as a director, that's kind of the hardest part, is how do you pull that vision out of your head and like show it to your production designer and your DP and your actor to like kind of bring them into the world that you see. So obviously there was a couple, still references that we provided, but beyond that, a lot of the other visual language is kind of up to you. Was there any movies or cinematography from shows or films that you showed your team to like, hey, like, this is the feeling, the look, the color palette? Like, I'd love to hear some of your references that you had going into the film,
Cool. Yeah, that's a great question. And I have a lot to say about that. So one of my favorite movies of all times, one of my favorite horror films of all times is Hereditary. And I always wanted to make somebody like crawl on the wall, not on the wall, like on the ceiling. Like, to me, that scene in the end when
so I had that question. That was going to be one of my questions, so you're leading into it. I'll let you keep going, but my big question was like, how did you do that roof shot where he like the thing's on the roof and it falls? So anyways, keep going. But yeah
so that was one of the like references for my vision for like the monster. Like, I really wanted somebody to like crawl on the wall or like fall from the ceiling. Like, also the scare fact, it's so commonly used that like somebody like turns around and there's somebody behind them, or like they're on the side or like in front of them. So like I didn't want to put like any like jump scares directly like in this like horizontal plane. I wanted something to be like either from down or from upwards. And yeah, Hereditary is like, that scene super scares the shit out of me, and like I wanted to use something similar to that. Then another one is Lights Out and Annabelle. Like, it's this black figure that you see the silhouette, but you don't see like exactly what it is. And that's also like something that scares me a lot in horror films. I don't like when like it's too straight in the face, when like you see the monster, it's like all like super creepy and gross, and like because you see a lot of details, it kind of like takes away the mystery of like, wait, what is it? And I kind of wanted to implement the same thing to the Deadline monster. Yeah, like even the way the idea started for this film was 1.5 weeks before the deadline. I was laying in my bed, 4 a.m., trying to figure out like, what am I gonna shoot? Like, we still don't have a we still don't have a script. We don't have anything ready. Like, it's less than 2 weeks before the deadline, but we're supposed to shoot something on this weekend, and we still don't have anything. And I was like laying in bed and looking like at the ceiling in the corner, and I was like, that would be creepy if there was like a monster on the ceiling right now. And I was like, okay, like, what is this monster? Like, what is it? Like, and then I was kind of like trying to get more into like, what could be the storyline for this monster? And I was thinking like, wait, go back to not what you think Jake will like go back to like something personal. Like, what do you feel is scary to you, or like what do you feel right now? And right now, at that moment, I felt the pressure of deadline. And then I remembered the TED talk about deadlines, and the speaker was representing the deadline as the monster. And I was like, oh, maybe the monster on the ceiling that I'm like envisioning right now, imagining, it could be like the deadline, like physically like creeping up to you and like
Yeah.
getting closer and closer and closer. And yeah,
That's cool.
finally it gets you. So
That's
that was like the
that's what I
whole.
really liked. That's what I really liked about the film is, again, like I said, mentioned earlier, the layers and levels to it is like the monster wasn't just a monster to be a monster. It
Mhm.
represented something. And it was very clear to me when I watched it. I was like, oh, that's like his anxiety, this
Mhm.
deadline
Yeah.
encroaching on him. It's getting closer and closer. And even to, yeah, when it's creeping in at the end and it's just like, you know, fade to black and he turns and it's gone. It's like, whew. And then it's that
Yeah.
classic moment too, where you kind of like let the audience down, like it's over. And then, yeah, just the boom up drop of the scene. I
Yeah.
was like, oh shit. Like, so
Yeah.
no, I mean, again, yeah, so good. So it's so funny how like it just came from, yeah, obviously you were trying to do and think of all these other things, and then just along the way you found it and found what was like kind of
Mhm.
just real and scary to you. And I've heard directors talk about that too. Is what's his name, Mike Flanagan? I don't know if you've heard of him. He's done a
Mhm.
bunch of horror kind of films and TV shows and stuff, and
Like the
he
Haunting of
talked
Hill
about
House,
on
right?
Oh,
Haunting a Hill
okay.
House, and
Uh-huh.
he did some other ones, but Hush was one of his like first kind of feature films. And
Uh-huh.
they basically, he was just like, all right, what would be scary to him and his wife? And they like walked around this house and was like, if this happened, like, oh, what if like the character was deaf? How scary would it be to know, like, not know someone's in your house because you can't hear them? And so they just,
Yeah,
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 they
yeah. I remember the
literally kind
film.
of what you were talking about was like, all right, what would be scary to me right now? And they walked around
Yeah.
the environment. It was like, oh, this would be terrifying. And they took that inspiration to write and make that movie Hush. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, similar for you, you're laying in bed going like, all right, what is this movie, or what would be scary to me right now? It's like, oh, this deadline is encroaching. That's scary. And it's like, oh, if there was yeah. So I love all that, and love hearing that insight into, yeah, how the film was formed.
I think in
Um,
general, like the directors probably have to make a movie that they would want to watch. Like I've heard it from Denis
yeah,
Villeneuve, and like he always says that he's making a movie not for the audience but for himself. And it might be like a little selfish, but at the same in the end of the day, yeah, you like you
yeah,
as a director, you have to have a vision, and that vision is directly reflects your taste. And if you think that this is something good to yourself, uh, most likely there will be some other people who think the same, hopefully.
yeah.
Uh,
No,
so yeah, in the end of
that's
the
how I
day,
always that's
yeah,
how I
yeah, in
always
the end,
take an approach with Tom and stuff. The like just either our ideas or businesses or products, and that's what I when I got my film ranch, the Eclectic West, where we shot our short film.
mhm,
That was my take on it. It was like I went out there and I was like, okay, is this something? Is this a place I would want to shoot at? And if I can answer
yeah,
that question, yes, then I know other people will as well. So like a similar thing where it's like
yeah,
if this is something I would want to watch, most likely there's going to be other people that will want to watch
mhm,
this as well. Um, yeah, but yeah, definitely got to make art and films for you and what you want to see, not for other people. So I love that you said that as well, because that's important. Not trying to make things because you think that's what someone else wants to see, but just make the
yeah,
stuff that you want to see, and it'll just come off so much more just natural and real as well, because you're not trying to
definitely.
like, yeah, cookie cut something to please someone else.
And the first three ideas that I was trying to develop, that's exactly what it was. I was like thinking like, what could be like the winner of this contest? Like obviously I looked at the
Yeah,
previous year's winners, is like, oh, okay, like I should do something like this, or maybe I shouldn't do something like this. Maybe Jake will want to see something different. And like it's just you just like run around the circles.
yeah,
And in the end of the day, you're not making something that you want to see. And
yeah,
yeah, it's just like the thing that I keep learning over and over again on each project, that try to be as um, personal as possible with what you're doing, because then it will come off that way in the end product.
Is this your
Let me ask you
first
this.
like? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna just say, now that this film is over and you're looking at it, you're at the screening. I feel like naturally as artists, we always kind of look at stuff, and I look at some of my stuff that I'm most proud of and be like, I would have done that a little differently. Is there anything that you
Tell me
look at your
about it.
film? I think it's just natural for any
Yeah.
artist to. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
sign that you obviously cares. You're constantly kind of critiquing it, but as you watch your film now and at the screening last week, was there anything that you were seeing like, if I could just get one more day or one more week, or if I was back on set, I would have totally done this differently? I think it's fun to kind of hear that, because I think other
Yeah.
artists and filmmakers can like kind of understand, like, was there a shot that maybe got away from you or that you wish was just executed better or differently? I'd love to hear if there's any shot in particular. You don't have to go down the whole list, but if there's one
Yeah,
that really
yeah.
sticks out of like, yeah, if I had one more day, I would have done that a little bit differently, you know?
Well, actually, everything that we filmed was pretty much everything that I wanted, and even more,
Mm.
because then Kenneth, my DP, he actually brought in his ideas for 2 or 3 scenes, like the scene in the bathroom when Andrew is like slapping himself, and like
Mm.
the very last 2 shots of like the monster dragging Andrew down the
Across the
hallway.
kitchen.
Like that was,
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
that was his idea. So we shot like more than I wanted to. Um, but watching the film, uh, I wish I had more time to color grade it and do better
Mm.
sound design. So like that's 2 things that I'm kind of like, oh, I wish I had more
Yeah.
time. But the
Yeah.
color grade was literally done 1 hour,
Oh,
no, two
wow.
hours before the submission. Like I just
Man.
speed through it. Like I was not even like doing anything super crazy. I was like, okay, let's just like match the shots and like that's it. Like it's
I
good.
actually
Yeah.
Like
really,
it is
really
what
like
it
the
is.
color. At first, I was like, dude, do they shoot this on like an Alexa or something? And just having come from
Mm.
like a cinematography background, it had like a
Mhm.
very lush, soft, cinematic feel. So it's funny how like something you wish you would change was actually something that I personally enjoyed. So it is kind of
Yeah.
funny
You
to,
know,
you
I
know,
really loved the therapy scene, like
Mm.
from the shot selection to the lighting to the camera choice when you push like moving to the close up before he looks up and sees the monster in the
Mhm.
corner, like that. I don't know, that whole scene was really really good. I liked how that one was shot, and I thought that one also had a more distinct grade as well. I don't know if that was intentional or if that was just how the scene was lit. But yeah, like, is
Mhm.
there other scenes, speaking of color, like throughout the movie that you, when you were quickly grading, you graded more intensely, or that was just pretty much how things were lit?
Um, well, thank you for complimenting the therapy scene. It's also
Yeah,
like one of my favorite ones in the way it like
it's a good one.
turned out visually.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's actually had like probably the least amount of color grading on it because it was just like so beautifully like lit from the beginning.
yeah,
So it's nice when you have something that you don't have to fix in post and like it just like looks good straight out of the camera, and then maybe like do a little bit of adjustments. But the hardest scene to work with in color grade was the kitchen scene in the beginning. And
mm,
I probably, you guys have the same opinion about white walls, that it's like
mm,
super
yeah,
boring, and I hate
yeah.
shooting anything with white walls in the background. And yeah, it was just like I could not make it look like cinematic, and I
yeah.
was working on that scene the longest. And like I said, because it was so close to the deadline, I was like, okay, it is what it is. I have to go and like move on to other scenes. But that scene probably would be the one I would like to reshoot, and just reshoot it in a different location, something without white
Mm.
walls. That's it.
What was the scene that was like the hardest to pull off from like a directing standpoint, where it's just like, dude, this isn't quite right. We're not getting the lines, or the just.
Mhm.
I know there's usually always a moment on every film where it's like there's something that's just like you really have to like fight to get, or that's
Yeah,
challenging. So I don't know if there was anything that stands out to you of like,
there were. Yeah. Well, actually, there's one scene in the bakery which was cut out of this of the 5 minute
okay,
cut, and it didn't make the cut, but it was a little difficult to get the performances that I wanted there, but
Yeah.
also um, the last scene, the oh god, the rain evening
Yeah.
scene
Yeah.
when typing out with the monster in the background, that was not difficult to direct. It was difficult to direct because of the time restrictions. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you saw the BTS, it's literally me looking at the screen and just like yelling, like, now do this, now look at the clock, now type faster, now stop typing. So it was like this
Mm.
just like rushed energy throughout this whole scene, and like we were like, okay, we're doing it handheld, no tripods, just like Kenneth, go grab this shot, I'm gonna go grab that shot. And
Just chaotic.
that was just like chaotic and stressful,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think because
You.
we spread out this shoot over several days, so we could have like some breaks in between to like recover, and like, okay, today we're doing just this scene, then go sleep for 4 hours, and then come back, and then, okay, now we're doing this scene, and then same thing for like a week. And because we didn't try to like squeeze this whole 5-minute short film in like 2-day shoot, it gave us a little bit more flexibility with me being able to like get exactly like the performance that I wanted to, or like me being very like meticulous with the shot the way it was supposed to be, like the shot with the smoke coming out of the mask. That
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like one of the hardest ones to pull off, but it didn't take us that much time because we were kind of like rested, and we were
Yeah.
like, okay, let's just like come in and do it. We did not know how to do. We were literally come up with a red light idea on the set. We're like, okay,
Mm.
how can we make it like more visual? What if the light turns red when he gets high?
Yeah.
What if like the smoke comes out from his mask? And yeah,
How
That's
many,
cool. I like
speaking of,
that
it
too.
sounds like you were shooting over a couple different days. How many,
mhm.
technically, like, how many days of shooting did you guys actually shoot?
um, we started shooting on Sunday, 8 days before the deadline, and we shot every single day except Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
Oh no way.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. So
I was
because we
gonna
also
say,
had like work schedule, and like we had to
uh,
like go to work, and then in the evening come back and like shoot this scene. Then
yeah, because
in the
watching it, it
morning we had
looked
to
like
go.
so many
Mhm.
different like setups and
Yeah,
locations, the car, the there. So,
yeah,
you
Yeah.
know, even watching it, I was like, dude, I can tell this team put a lot of work into this because, and not that that
Yeah.
was, you know, because other films, I realize that a lot of these films. Sorry, my dog is barking.
it's okay.
But no, it's I really could tell that like it was over the period of several days. It's crazy to hear that you guys actually shot it over a whole week, and then obviously
Yeah,
had time to edit it within that week of shooting too. You know
I
what I
had
mean?
to
Were
edit
you
it as
editing
we were.
as you were going?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, of
yeah.
course. Yeah, I would not be able to do it any other way. So yeah, the first 2 days were gone, and we were like, okay, I'm gonna start editing the scenes that I have. And then you look at those scenes, and it's like it's just two scenes. There's no complete movie. You look at it and like, this is garbage. Like, this is not gonna do like any good. Like, but then the more scenes are coming in, and then you do like, okay, let me like do a little bit of sound design, and like, oh, it's actually not that bad. And then let's
Yeah.
put the color grade, and that's, I
Dude, I
think, like
can't tell
everybody in
you,
the
even with mine, the one that we did at the Eclectic West with the Michael Myers, just kind of Halloween fan film, like there was moments exactly how you're explaining now, like when we only shot in one night, but when I got back and I'm editing it, the first part of it, I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I started moving into another section. I'm like, oh, this is garbage. Like this is,
yeah,
and trying to
it's
like
always
piece it
that.
together. It's like,
Yeah,
you always just like, gosh, is this even going to be good? Like, is it, or is this just going to be
yeah,
trash? And with some editing magic and sound design and
yeah,
music, and you start really finessing it, yeah, it comes together. But yeah, I don't think like a filmmaker doesn't ever have a moment of like, yeah, this is garbage. Like they're not just like, oh, brilliant, perfect, right? There's always
no,
that like, dude, is this any
yeah,
good? Like, so
One of the
no,
things
I
I wanted
think
to
that's
ask you is, Oh, sorry. If you wanted to close out that thought, Jake.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the last questions I wanted to ask you, and I guess just to kind of tee it off, I think the cool thing about the rules of the contest is it kind of mirrors how like shooting a feature would be, right? Like if
Hmm.
you know, are shooting a feature, you're dealing with rules, right? You have a certain amount of
Yeah.
budget, a certain amount of shooting days, certain amount of actor availability. So even at scale, this short film kind of does mirror, I feel like in a lot of ways, like how an actual production, it's very rare that a director just gets to do whatever they want for however
Yeah.
long they want
Yeah.
for however much money. So that being said, with the rules, you know, no like gimbals or steady cam
Uh,
or being 5 minutes, was there a rule that you struggled with the most that you were kind of always like batting up against and kind of wishing, yeah, I don't know, like
yeah.
was there one in particular? It kind of sounds in our conversation so far, the length was the biggest kind of
Hmm.
hurdle, but I would love to hear if
Yeah.
any of the other rules from just the sort of the layout of this contest were difficult, you know, like the creative use of the mask, the handheld, the tripod. I'd love to hear your perspective on like how
Hmm.
you approach those rules and maybe some that were more difficult than others. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I personally love rules, and like it's kind of like gives you like something to work with from the beginning,
Yeah.
which is a nice thing to me. Um, Definitely the 5 minute limitation was uh, difficult, but in the end of the day, it actually forced me to do something with like more like fast-paced editing. And like I've never done a film
Yeah.
that like had so many like different locations and like editing techniques that I was using there before. So it was a really good thing for me actually to have that limitation and try to squeeze that story that I thought like this is should be like a 7 or 10 minute short film. Like, why am I doing this for a 5 minute contest? Like, let's just like get this story, film it in 7-10 minutes, and this is going to be a short film. But then, no. In the end of the day, like I get a chance to like mm, experiment with editing, try different techniques,
Yeah.
different styles, and like rely heavily on like sound effects and learned a lot about how many things can be cut out, like how many lines. Like some of the
Oh
scenes
yeah.
were like 2 times longer than you see in the film. And yeah, we were just like with Kenneth and his wife, we were like looking at the cut and like, this line can go, this line can go, this line can go. So it's like, it was a good learning experience to have that limitation. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I said in the beginning, like having something to work off from the beginning, that you have like an idea. I had an idea with the gas mask. Like that was like the one thing that stayed from the beginning till the end
Yeah.
from the concept, that because you wanted to see the mask in a film, I
Yeah.
had to think like what would be a creative way to use a mask and what would be that mask
And see, that's
uh,
that's what I
film.
actually liked about yours as well, because it used it in a way that wasn't like the evil or bad guy. It was like his
Mhm.
way of trying to like relax from
Yeah,
this, kind of thing that's bearing down his neck. And so I liked that because yeah, again, majority of them were like, okay, how could I use this mask in a scary way? And
yeah,
so no, I enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean, that's what I like about this contest is kind of the set of rules, because yeah, there's not. I mean, film festivals are open ended, right? They're not contests. They're
yeah,
just you make a film, you submit it to a film festival. But what I like about this contest is like, and doing it with these kind of creative challenges or rules, it's really fun to see how creative people can get with them. But it also gives, yeah, kind of a guideline for people. But then also for me, like, and us, it gives us something to kind of like judge these films against each other on. And it's not
mhm,
so like this film won because like if it was just open ended, it's like, hey, horror short film contest, make anything you want. It just can't be over
yeah.
5 minutes long. Like you're just gonna get such a wide breadth of stuff, and there's nothing to really like judge them
Judge it.
on. It's just like
Yeah,
more,
it's
yeah. There's more like, oh, that was a cool film. I really like that idea, and this one's not to
mhm,
my personal taste, so I don't really like
yeah,
that one. And like then it becomes like a what you like kind of thing versus of like, how good of a film did they make given these like challenges. And so
yeah,
I think that's it's cool for a couple reasons. Cool, it's fun, it's cool, but it gives you guys something to follow, and it gives a fair playing ground for everyone, because it's like everyone's having to abide by these
Yeah.
same restrictions and rules. So
And in the end of the day, like when you judge something, it can be like so subjective. If you don't have those rules, like
Yeah.
like somebody can think like, oh, they just like don't have the taste for my
Yeah.
film, or like
yeah,
it's very difficult to be subjective with like these contests
No, for
that
sure.
don't have any rules. And another thing that I wanted to say, that because you had those rules, like as we were writing the script, as I was working on the story, we wanted to make sure that like every single point checks that, like, okay, do we have like a strong storyline? Check. Do we have a creative use of mask? Check. Scare factor.
Yeah.
Is it creepy enough? Check. So like those things actually make you to make they force you to make a well balanced film.
100%. And that's why your film won. And it's like, I even saw like on, for example, Disinfectant on YouTube, there was a comment, it was like, oh, this one should have won. And it's like, that's someone who's not seeing it from the perspective of like, hey, these films are being judged by this criteria, right? And they're just looking at like, oh, that one's so dope and scary, that one should have won. It's like, well, no, there's rules. It's the creative use of the mask. How original is the story? Is it scary? How, like, there's all the different things that you have to follow. And yours, like you said, going across the board was just like, oh, very well done. Well done. Very well done. You know what I mean? And it's like the big difference maker, you could have 4 of these 5 rules that like really check the box well. But if that 5th one, like, because we rate each kind of rule and thing how they do on like a scale of 1 to 10, and say you're getting 9s and 10s or 9s and 8s across the first few, but then the creative use of the mask is a 4, it's like that can drop. I mean, these films, the top 3 films were separated by first, second, and third were all separated by like a single point. Like, so it's like one small like drop or dip in like one of those rules can make a huge difference. And so it is important just for anyone that wants to participate in future contests that you do make a well-rounded film that hits on all of these kind of these rules. And it's cool to see that you can still make a really dope film and make a really good film with rules and challenges. Like, that's not that there should be no excuse, you know what I mean? Because you did it, you know. So
I think the really cool thing about short films is they kind of, and I said this actually at the screening, but they kind of give you like a look into maybe like a bigger world that could be explored with like a feature. And I do feel like this short kind of had like a pretty concise ending. But let me challenge you with this question. If there was a feature version of Deadline, like, what is it? Pitch it to me. Is it like maybe he's actually screenwriting for like a whole thing, and like it's kind of like a Fear and Loathing where he just starts to descend into like kind of chaos? Or I'd love to hear if you thought this could be expanded into a longer version, like elevator pitch, or like what would that version be? Have you given that any thought?
That's a great question. And I was thinking like what could be something on a bigger like if I would make this into a feature film, like what would this be about? And I was thinking something more like Black Swan, when it's not like an actual like monster that is like physical creature that like, tries to get you. It's more like mental and like cool. Schizophrenia stuff, or like psychosis, and like something that develops in somebody's brain and like over the whole film, it just drives them mad. And then in the end of the film, you like, wait, like, so is this monster real or not real? Like, is it in their head or is it like actually happening? So those things, like these kind of stories excite me the most, because like it's more it gives like some open ending. Like even with this short film, like some people can like maybe ask, so is this monster real or not real? Like, is it all in his head?
Right.
And or is it like actual
no, for sure.
monster? And it's for them to answer that question.
I like films that don't tell you this is it. It like lets the audience participate and lets them kind of infer, you know. And I think obviously everyone talks about like Inception with the top spinning. I like things that like let you think like, well, shit, is that a dream? Or in your instance, is he actually getting killed? Like, I like films that are open-ended because it invites conversation. And that's the cool thing about like filmmaking is like the
Yeah.
conversations like we're having right now, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think that comes from like films that like don't just tell you this happened. You know, it's like I hate when films have so much exposition where you're just kind of getting beat over the head
Yeah.
with like this is the plot. Like I like films
Yeah.
where it's funny when me and Jake a week ago we watched all top 25 and just chatted about them. And by design, like we had our screen up and it was muted, so we were watching all these films on mute so we could talk about them.
Mhm.
And funny enough, the top three were all films that if you hit the mute button on YouTube and watch it, you could still like take in visually like what's going
Mhm.
on. You don't need dialogue. And I
Yeah.
think that your film did a very good job of that. You could literally
Thank
watch it
you.
on mute and like take visually like infer what's going on
Yeah.
without the need of like, hey, da 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 da. You know, it was very visually driven film, which
Yeah.
I really liked. So
And I must
So
say, it wasn't like that from the beginning. Like I said, we had to like cut out a lot of lines. And in the beginning, when you're writing a story, like, oh, will audience get this or not? Like, let me like make the character say that, or like let's like give an insert so they understand this. And then as you editing, you understand like, yeah, audience, they're smart. Like they will get this. And if
yeah,
no, good. Like one person
right.
will get it, the other person not get it, and then they will talk about it. So it's an exciting thing to have
Yeah, you
some.
don't always have to hit the audience over the head with stuff. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Keeping
yeah.
things subtle is sometimes important.
Uh-huh.
And I think a lot of like early student films, they always have so much exposition and so much dialogue
Sure,
and
sure.
walking from here to here to open this door to go to here. And they're just like
Yeah.
think that the audience needs to see all this stuff that they really don't need to see or hear. And so, yeah, as we come to the down to the wire here, I have one kind of big final question. Now that you've won this contest and you're past that, do you have
I'm
any
sorry.
plans on?
I'm sorry. I didn't
Oh,
hear anything that you said in the last 10 seconds because there was
got
like a
you.
delay or something. So could you please repeat that?
No worries. I'll just go into my final question here.
Uh-huh.
Final question is: now that you've won the contest, it's over. Do you have any plans on going back and reworking, editing, polishing it up, and like submitting it to film festivals, or you're kind of like, nah, I'm done. I'm cool. Moving on to the next thing.
Um, I wanted to make a longer version of this as I was editing it. But now, in the end, I was like, it actually works as a 5 minute short film. So I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't extend it, but would like to do some recolor grade and get a better sound design. And then, yeah, maybe submit it to some horror short film festivals or like
Yeah.
other
I
film
think you should.
festivals, see how it does there.
Yeah, because I mean, we just had our first experience. Like I've always done horror short films, and with Tom and everything, and I've never submitted anything to a film festival. And we had just done this like horror
Really?
POV. Yeah, we just did this horror POV short film, really creepy. And
Yeah.
after we made it, we
Uh-huh.
were just like, "Yo, this is good." And then like, just was like, "Dude, we should submit it to a festival." Like I've never had the time or I make that excuse, right? But I've also never had the experience of submitting to a film festival. I've never done it. I never knew how to go
Mhm.
about it. And then my friend who was in the film was just like, we should submit this. And I was like, look, here's the film, like whatever it costs, the different entry fees, let me know. I'll send you the money to do it. But if you could just handle submitting it. And then she
Yeah.
submitted it, and it got into all these festivals. It won a couple
Congrats.
awards at some of them, went to one of the screenings in LA and had agents and other filmmakers coming up to me talking about it. I was like, dude, like you definitely, like if you make a film, you need to take the time and due diligence to go and submit it, because you never know what could
Yeah.
come of that. So I would recommend, like, yeah, going back in, sprucing it up how you
Mhm.
would like to see it, polished and finished, and then also going off and submitting the film to some festivals. Unfortunately, film festival, that's what I like also about this contest, is like film festivals, you don't win anything. Like also,
Yeah.
like you just
Exactly.
cool, we won, here's like an award or a little, what are they called, Tom, the little Florida
I think they're called like
Laurels?
L'Oreals,
I think.
L'Oreals.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's it. Like I know, like even one of them, we won best like special effects makeup or something, and it was like
Mhm.
we got an image ad sent to our email like, you won this, and it was like, cool. Like so, like
Yeah.
what I like about this contest too is like it's kind of like a film festival, but an elevated version, and like a contest where people can compete
Yeah.
and challenge themselves, but then also come away with some cool prizes. I know last year, like, we
No,
gave away
dude.
a red Komodo and so much more.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
No, this
we
is
did a
so
lot last
incredible
year.
what you're doing. Like literally
Yeah,
with all of these things that we won, we are like already thinking like, okay, what's the next thing that we can make with this? Like we have like
yeah,
access to these locations, like we have
yeah,
these like new editing assets. Like this is so amazing, and like
yeah,
now we must go out and do more stuff. So
yeah,
yeah, there's like this um gratification of like winning something, but also because you do have like so many cool prizes, it also gives filmmakers an opportunity to go and make something better with these new
yeah.
resources, which is it's amazing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much. If you don't mind, just to close this out, where can our audience find your work? Either a
Yeah.
website, Instagram, or both. We'll obviously have the links
Yeah.
in the show notes, but for those listening, maybe driving to set or something, if you want to call out where people can find your work, that'd be awesome.
Cool. You can find my work on my Instagram at Max Varen. And there's also a link to my website, my YouTube channel, and yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
We
we'll
can't
link
wait to see
everything.
what you
Cool.
cook up next, and yeah, maybe next year we'll maybe see another short film from your team. We'll look out
Most
for that.
likely you will, because after this experience, I definitely want to go through something like this again. And
I hope
again,
so.
at the end of the day, it's the most important thing that we, like all 256 people who submitted, in the end of the day, we're all winners because we made something. Like
Yeah,
it's better
Yeah.
than be on the couch and think like, I could have made something. I'll make it next year, or maybe
yeah,
the year after the next year. But no, in the end
Yeah.
of the day, like as long as you go out and do something, like that's already a huge win. Huge win.
I love
I
it.
agree.
I love it.
Well, thank you
Well,
so much for your
cool.
time,
Thank you
man.
so
It's been a
much,
great chat.
Max.
Thank you guys. It was a pleasure
All
talking to
right.
you.